The story takes place in an old family. Their house was unbelievably lavish, but unlike other noble families who only displayed sculptures or famous paintings, this family worshipped all kinds of games. It was a stormy night. Daniel, the older brother, was dragging his younger brother Alex, running wildly through the house. Suddenly, a sweating man pulled Daniel back, desperately begging Daniel to save him. It seemed someone was chasing him, trying to take his life. Before he could finish, a bowstring twanged, and an arrow pierced the man's chest. A woman in a wedding dress screamed but couldn't stop the terrifying masked figures from dragging the man away. That scene became a memory Daniel would never forget. As a child. 30 years later, Gray, in a pristine white wedding dress, repeatedly recited her wedding speech. Although she had memorized it long ago, today was her big day, her wedding to the Domas family, richer than God himself. Even before officially moving in, she felt her father-in-law disliked her. Her brother-in-law, Daniel, kept teasing her indifferently. Just hearing these addresses was enough to know this was a complicated family. Still, Gray was eager to join. The older members of the family were quite traditional. They preferred stable relationships, dating for 5 or 6 years, before marrying. They didn't understand the fast food culture of the youth. Gray and Alex's 18-month relationship was already considered very rare among young people. Alex didn't care, saying, "Let them think what they want. They're all rotten anyway." Just then, Daniel, the brother-in-law, walked in. The wedding ceremony. Below was urging them. Gray was excited. Daniel immediately told her, "It's still not too late to run away. You don't belong in this family." Gray pouted, seeing that her brother-in-law still disliked her, but for some reason, Alex also felt a little uneasy. Everything at the wedding went smoothly. In front of the camera, Gray narrowed her eyes and smiled unnaturally. Her father-in-law quietly told Daniel next to him, given Alex's conditions, he could clearly marry someone much better. His expression was natural, but his words were full of disdain. Perhaps that's why Alex hadn't been home for 2 years. It wasn't because of the marriage, but everyone in the family thought Alex had unilaterally cut ties. Her paternal aunt, in a purple dress, sat on a small armchair nearby, looking very uncomfortable and not saying a word. Daniel immediately told Gray, "It's not that everyone has an opinion about you. It's that they don't know if you're just a gold digger, unlike my wife." Her sister-in-law looked very powerful, her words sharp and vicious. She would never become one of them. Her sister-in-law and brother-in-law arrived late. It seemed they were always late. Her father-in-law especially disliked her brother-in-law, considering him the most useless person in the house. The way everyone in this family behaved made Gray feel very stifled. She struggled to find a place to hide and breathe a sigh of relief. Her mother-in-law followed. Gray was scared and quickly sucked in her stomach. Her mother-in-law came to find her smoking. Unexpectedly, after just 2 conversations, Gray discovered her mother-in-law was exceptionally approachable. Perhaps because her mother-in-law also came from a similar background, both were commoners. After the bride and groom kissed, the wedding ceremony concluded smoothly. The two returned to the bridal chamber, preparing to end the most important night of their lives with a perfect flourish. Gray ordered Alex to quickly take off his clothes. Alex hesitated, seeming to have something to say. As the two lingered, Gray suddenly saw someone standing in the room, startling both of them. It was the aunt, who had come to tell them to come downstairs for a meeting. Everyone was already waiting. After the aunt left, Alex explained a little. The aunt used the servant's entrance. Such small doors were everywhere in the house, like a labyrinth. Sometimes even he wasn't sure. Gray asked why they were meeting. This was the reason Alex hesitated. Their family had a tradition. New members had to participate in a game at midnight. The types of games varied widely, all decided by drawing, cards, chess, board games, or something else. It wasn't actually difficult. They didn't need to win, just participate. Gray heard this and immediately showed interest. In the game room, the father-in-law asked Alex if he had explained the situation to Gray. Alex said he would never tell, because tomorrow morning they would leave this house forever and never return. The father-in-law then asked, "So, if Gray draws the card she shouldn't, are you ready to do what needs to be done?" Alex did not answer. In her wedding speech today, Gray's story had moved many. She was an orphan who grew up in foster families, facing many struggles, until she met Alex. This path was not easy. Her mother-in-law, on the other hand, loved her even more. Because she knew the boundless pain of not having a home, Gray cherished the new family she was about to join even more. Her mother-in-law held Gray's hand and whispered intimate words. The first time she met Gray, her mother-in-law liked her and thanked her for bringing Alex home. But most importantly, she had helped Alex truly return to the family. Gray didn't quite understand the deeper meaning of those words. The children's screams suddenly filled the house. They were her sister-in-law's two sons, the monstrous masks. They made Daniel particularly uncomfortable. The obese brother-in-law scornfully cursed Daniel, then turned to greet Gray, saying his private jet had just taken off. With his noble physique, he couldn't endure the torment of commercial flights. Her sister-in-law excitedly gripped Gray's hand, saying she regularly followed Gray's social media and wanted them to become good sisters. Her eyes were wide, as if her performance was over the top. The aunt nearby seemed to despise her. The butler loudly announced the time, 11:55. The game was about to begin. Gray was led into the Domas family's game room. Inside, candles lit the room, and the walls were adorned with large animal taxidermy, hunting rifles, and a painting of the Domas ancestors hunting tigers, showcasing the family's glorious history of conquering nature. Everyone sat down, and the father-in-law began to explain the origin and meaning of the game. The Domas family originally worked in printing, specializing in producing playing cards. After a generation of effort, they expanded into sports equipment and board games. To this day, the Domas family is a giant in the board game industry. Many say this is luck, but they know it's thanks to someone secretly helping them. As he spoke, the father-in-law took out an ancient box. Before opening the print shop, his great-grandfather was a small, unknown sailor. Until one day he met a gentleman named Leb Bello. Mr. Leb Bello was a collector and dealer of jewelry and luxury goods for the super-rich in America. The two got along very well, and Mr. Lebello handed this box to his great-grandfather. If his great-grandfather could open it before getting off the ship, then all of his great-grandfather's future decisions would receive investment from Mr. Lebello. Everyone knew the story after that. Since then, every time a new member joined the family, everyone would put an empty card into the box, and the box would decide which game would be played. The box was passed to Gray. Gray placed the card as requested, and the result was hide and seek. Gray chuckled, still worried that this game seemed too childish for a group of people whose combined age was over 1,000 years. When she looked up, the entire room was silent. Alex even turned pale. The father-in-law officially announced the game had begun and everyone should get ready. The magic of the game was that no matter how naive, as long as participants were active, anyone could quickly get into it. Gray's fighting spirit was stimulated by everyone's serious demeanor. Alex told her to go to their room first, but Gray even refused, saying she wanted to have fun. The rules of the game were very simple. Gray could hide in any corner of the house. Everyone would count to 100 and then go look for her. To ensure the fairness of the game, all surveillance cameras in the house would be turned off. Everything was played according to the rules set by his great-grandfather years ago. While the father-in-law was explaining the rules, the butler in the control room turned off all cameras and locked all doors. It was time for hide and seek. Gray found a hiding place first. The family didn't count, but for some reason, they took out all sorts of weapons with complex expressions. Some were happy, some were sad. Her mother-in-law even told Alex not to play, just to stay put. This wasn't hide and seek. It was nothing short of an elephant hunt. Gray struggled to find a dumbwaiter. She suddenly felt a strange mood. Thinking about how later, when others asked about her wedding night, she would only be able to say, "It was wonderful. I hid all night in a dumbwaiter." Gray really couldn't stand being in the dumbwaiter. As soon as she stepped out, Alex pulled her into a room. "Is the game over?" Alex told Gray to speak softly and was about to explain in detail when one of the servants walked into the room. It seemed her sister-in-law's two nephews hadn't slept well and had run out again. Alex pulled Gray to hide under the bed, only to hear a boom of a gun. The servant's head was blown to pieces. The shooter was her sister-in-law. The family ran over and scolded her sister-in-law for not looking. Did the servant's clothes look like a wedding dress? Gray covered her mouth, tears of fear streaming down her face. Her sister-in-law, who had just said she wanted to be best friends, now wanted to kill her. Was this really her new home, or was it a haunted house? Her relatives, without blushing or a heartbeat, carried the body out. The aunt even said it was her favorite servant, but her tone showed no emotion. Grace was so stunned she didn't know how to react. Alex was very worried. His phone seemed to have been confiscated. It was then that he began to explain the true rules of the game to Gray. The hide-and-seek card Gray drew was the worst card in the deck. The person who drew this card had to be killed before dawn. If the game was not completed, Mr. Labello would be angry, and the family would suffer disaster. For example, when his uncle married, he didn't play the game and died the next morning. Similar examples were endless. Gray burst into tears of pain. Not because this was so scary, but because Alex clearly knew hide-and-seek was the worst card, yet he didn't object on her behalf. He even waited until now, when her life was almost lost, to tell her the truth. Men are straightforward. Don't blame women for strange grievances. What women care about is never the event itself, but the attitude of facing it together. Gray just didn't feel Alex was on her side. Unexpectedly, Alex suddenly understood and told Gray, "If I told you, you would have left me from the beginning. You are my everything. I promise you we will get out. We will get out, won't we?" Gray was no longer angry. Having resolved their conflict, the two split up. Alex went to the surveillance room to open the doors, while Gray would sneak to the kitchen and exit through the back door. With that, Alex left Gray alone again. Gray struggled to regain her composure, changing into canvas shoes and tearing off the train of her wedding dress to move more easily. As she walked, she opened a door and, unexpectedly, she bumped into her sister-in-law. Her sister-in-law screamed and fired a shot. Although it didn't hit Gray, it made the relatives carrying the maid's body behind her fall to the ground. Gray quickly ran into the library. Fortunately, no one was chasing her. Gray had just blocked the door with a sofa when Daniel walked in. From the servants' entrance, the two looked at each other, the atmosphere extremely awkward. Fortunately, Daniel was not entirely like the other relatives. He only came for a drink. However, as a family member, he still had to inform everyone to come. He just didn't want to be the one to act. So he gave Gray 10 seconds. Daniel led the relatives to the library, buying Gray time to escape. The first to arrive was the sister-in-law. After all, the sister-in-law had been married to Daniel for so long. Not seeing Gray, she didn't need to guess that Daniel had gone soft. Daniel suddenly mentioned how the sister-in-law looked when she first moved in, when he explained the rules of the game to her. She didn't even blink, looking as if she was eager to sell her soul. The sister-in-law's background was not good either. To get everything she had today, she could even sacrifice her life. The family members arrived one after another, still unable to find Gray. They decided to take a break and discuss their battle plan. The sister-in-law, too stressed, had gone to snort something and couldn't remember where she left her gun. The cat. Brother-in-law then gave her his crossbow. After all, He had been fumbling with it for a while and didn't know how to use it. Just a moment ago, he was watching a tutorial video in the bathroom. The topic today was understand your crossbow. Unexpectedly, at the moment of the exchange, the sister-in-law accidentally pulled the trigger. Just then, another servant walked in to report Gray's whereabouts, and an arrow whizzed straight into her mouth. All the family members looked pitiful, as if grieving for a child who accidentally spilled a cup of water, patting her head and offering candy. This wasn't working. The mother-in-law suggested turning on the surveillance cameras. Not using high technology was foolish. The aunt, however, had a strong opinion. For so many years, they had followed the rules left by their great-grandfather. They had to respect tradition. Everyone argued loudly. Finally, the father-in-law stepped in to unify their opinions. Back then, his great-grandfather didn't use it because he didn't have it. They had also never encountered such a strong opponent, so they still had to turn on the cameras. Now, completing the game was the most important thing. Gray kept running and ran back to the game room because she remembered that her great-grandfather's hunting rifles and ammunition were hung on the wall there. Since her relatives were ganging up on her, she wasn't going to be polite anymore. After changing her equipment, Gray followed Alex's route to the kitchen, just waiting for the door to open. Unexpectedly, the butler walked in at this moment to boil water for tea, humming a song as if everything happening tonight had nothing to do with him. Gray hid under the table, preparing to load her gun. Alex had just turned on the surveillance cameras and was sweating in his palms from tension, looking at the situation in the kitchen. He immediately unlocked the door. The butler was about to see what was happening when Gray pointed a gun at his head from behind. Surprisingly, the butler wasn't scared at all because these bullets were stored by him. He knew very well that they were all just decorations. The butler's smugness lasted less than 2 seconds. Gray took the hot teapot nearby and smashed it on his head. Taking advantage of the moment, she stealthily returned into the house. Alex saw it and was about to clap, but the voices of his father-in-law and Daniel echoed outside the surveillance room. Alex quickly smashed the camera control panel. His father-in-law rushed in and choked him, but how could an old man be an opponent? To a young man? Alex counterattacked, pinning him to the ground, almost suffocating him. Daniel stopped Alex. Brothers were more trustworthy. The moment Alex let his guard down, his father-in-law knocked him unconscious. When Gray arrived, she happened to see 2 people carrying Alex out horizontally. Frightened, she quickly had to hide again. She returned to the original dumbwaiter, inside which the last remaining servant was hiding. The servant jumped in surprise. She was also new and didn't know this family usually played such high stakes. She wasn't even a servant. Her father-in-law just liked watching her dance, so he kept her. Gray thought she had found an ally and was about to relax her guard, but unexpectedly, the next second, the servant started screaming, "She's here!" As she screamed, she accidentally pressed the button to lower the dumbwaiter. Her eyes stared blankly as the dumbwaiter crushed her. Alex was carried back to his room. Little Gray, alone, had taken so long and still hadn't resolved the situation. On this side, not only were 3 servants lost, but the security system couldn't be fixed either. All the relatives were extremely frustrated. Now, the only solution they could think of was for each person to guard a separate exit. This scene couldn't help but remind the aunt of her own story from years ago. 30 years ago, when she married, her sister's brother-in-law also drew the hide-and-seek card. Who knew she was just an innocent young woman back then? If life hadn't been so unfortunate, she wouldn't have transformed like this today, her hair already white. The feeling of losing a loved one was so painful. At that time, she shouldn't have struggled. Killing her brother-in-law with her own hands would have been liberation. Alex's situation now was exactly like hers back then. Now, in fact, the most important thing was for Alex to come to his senses and kill Gray with his own hands to inherit the position of head of the family. No one was more suitable than Alex because he was the only one in the family who had ever met Mr. Labello. After the father-in-law and the aunt argued loudly and left, Alex opened his eyes. He had heard everything, they said. The brother-in-law again sneaked away, pulling out his phone to search. Was the contract with the devil real or fake? He was enjoying watching when he didn't notice Gray jumping down from the upper floor and hiding in the courtyard. Suddenly, a flashlight beam appeared from behind. Gray had to hide in the nearby shed. Inside, she found it was full of goats. Before Gray could think, her nephew, in pajamas, appeared in front of her with a flashlight. He was tiny and looked very safe. Gray breathed a sigh of relief and was about to explain in detail when a shot from the nephew pierced Gray's palm. Furious, she delivered a punch that knocked the nephew unconscious to the ground. Just as she picked up the flashlight, the black goat next to her suddenly appeared before her eyes, startling her, making her step back and fall into a pit. Before she could clearly see the scene, a horrible stench made her nauseous, and she vomited violently. Inside were dead goats and even a human skeleton. Gray was so scared that despite the excruciating pain in her palm, she struggled to crawl out of this hell, leaving the goat pen. Gray was spotted by her sister-in-law. The sister-in-law quickly went to inform the other relatives, telling the butler to go catch Gray. Gray went to the fence, desperately crying for help to the outside. But this mansion was deep in the wild mountains. Not even a small animal could be seen. Fortunately, to prepare for this wedding, Gray had eaten so much grass that she managed to squeeze through an incredibly narrow fence. At this moment, a luxury car passed by. Gray stopped the car, but was scolded by the rich young master inside. Gray had to run into the forest. After arranging for the butler to chase, the whole family gathered again. The atmosphere of despair was heavier than ever. The father-in-law even cursed the portrait. Couldn't he talk to Mr. Labello to get less strict conditions? Did it have to be this murderous? Daniel didn't care much. It was 2019, he advised everyone not to be so superstitious anymore, to learn a little science. As a result, just for an offensive remark, he was punished by his father-in-law to dispose of the maids' bodies. The dumping ground was the goat pen Gray had just escaped from. Her sister-in-law accompanied Daniel. After all, of the 3 people, 2 were killed by her. Her sister-in-law suddenly remembered that 30 years ago, when the hide-and-seek card was drawn, Daniel was only 6 years old. Would he remember anything? Daniel never forgot, but he didn't know how much Alex remembered. He wasn't a truly good brother either. If he were, he wouldn't have let Alex marry Gray from the beginning. A rotten bunch like their family deserved to die. The nephew's faint murmuring came from the corner of the room. The sister-in-law asked the child why he was there. The child said he picked up a gun and shot Gray when he saw her. Daniel asked why the child said it was because everyone else did it. The sister-in-law even praised him for doing a good job, so proud. Daniel had already lost his moral compass. Seeing this scene, he became even more dejected. Gray walked and the butler drove. Very quickly, Gray was caught by the butler on the lawn. The two wrestled on the ground. Who knows how much hardship Gray had endured during her upbringing to fight so strongly. A trained man was not her match. She choked him to the ground. Ray stole the car. The luxury car had an emergency one-touch satellite phone service. Gray dialed, intending to call the police, but the other end slowly said that this car had been reported stolen and it was best to wait for the police on site. Before Gray could get angry, the butler suddenly appeared, and a tranquilizer dart knocked her out. When Gray woke up again, the car was on its way back to the mansion. The butler was making a video call to his relatives, triumphantly reporting his achievements, even singing. He didn't notice that Gray behind him had long since prepared herself. A powerful kick overturned the car. Gray struggled to get up. Daniel stood nearby with a gun. "I just came out for some fresh air. Thank you for disturbing my peace." Gray began to beg, but she believed Daniel was fundamentally a good person. Otherwise, why would he repeatedly help her so many times? He was a very, very good person. Daniel moved closer and closer. Ray had been mistaken. If anyone could save her, it was only Alex. After all, Alex was the one who had left the family, not Daniel. With that, a gun stock hit Gray. At this moment, the father-in-law put down his gun and stepped out of the shadows. The two carried Gray back, and the night Gray had been waiting for, her hero Alex, was now tied to the bed frame. He could only helplessly threaten his mother-in-law with words. If Gray is harmed, I will spare no one in this family. If you really wanted what was best for her, you wouldn't have let her draw the card in the first place. His mother-in-law asked Alex why he left in the first place. Alex didn't know either. Perhaps one night, as he was slitting the throats of goats and chanting strange incantations, he suddenly felt something was wrong. But why was everyone around him so natural? He became even more disappointed in himself. Why did the family just need to say, "It's okay"? Whatever it was, he would do it. Gray had fought all night, but still couldn't escape this terrifying place. When she woke up again, she was tied to a sacrificial altar. Her relatives were wearing black cloaks, drinking holy water, and chanting strange incantations. They no longer concealed their identity as cultists. Just as the father-in-law held an axe, intending to stab Gray in the head, he suddenly felt a salty taste in his mouth and spat out fresh blood. Not only him, but all the relatives present continuously vomited blood. At this moment, Daniel took off his mask and quickly untied Gray. Everyone realized that Daniel had added hydrochloric acid to the holy water. Of course, this wouldn't kill them. It would only make them uncomfortable for a week. Now they had to go save Alex. Gray didn't know how to thank him enough. Daniel just softly said, "I knew there would be a time when someone would come to stop all this absurdity. I just didn't expect it to be myself." No sooner had he finished speaking than Daniel's wife stood in front of him with a gun. "Do you really not care about my life or death?" Daniel wanted to say something else, but his sister-in-law shot him in the neck without hesitation, blood gushing like a fountain. Seeing her benefactor about to die, Gray suddenly regained all her strength. She punched her sister-in-law unconscious, then her father-in-law, then her mother-in-law. The relatives kept coming out one after another for Gray to punch. It could be said that Gray was initially just a little lamb, but after overcoming each challenge in one night, she leveled up to 99. At this moment, Alex also managed to untie himself. When he met Daniel, his brother had completely stopped breathing. Alex found Gray again. Gray took Mr. Labello's box and smashed her mother-in-law's head. "I swear I will destroy your entire family." Alex slowly approached Gray. Gray, even unconsciously, stepped back, saying, "I'm sorry, Alex is also very desperate after this. You won't be with me anymore, right?" Gray said nothing. Alex touched her hand. The strength in his hand grew, and after controlling Gray, he loudly called the relatives back. The two closest relatives dying had completely turned Alex into a demon. The sun peeked over the horizon, illuminating the treetops. The relatives quickly held Gray tightly. Even the two nephews glared angrily. Alex held the knife, preparing to deliver the final stab to complete the ritual. Amidst cries of "Hail Satan!" Gray suddenly erupted with strength, struggling free and snatching the knife. At that exact moment, the sun was fully up. The aunt furiously pulled open the curtains. Sunlight flooded the room. Everyone covered their faces in fear, motionless for a minute. Suddenly, everyone came to their senses. Nothing had happened. Now it was awkward. Everyone looked at each other, wondering who should apologize to Gray first. The aunt then roared, "Apologize for what? At this point, we have to kill Gray to silence her." Before she could finish, her entire body exploded into a bloody mist, scattering everywhere. The hide-and-seek game music suddenly started playing automatically. The relatives exploded one after another. Finally, only two remained. Alex looked horrified. Gray chuckled like a pig. As the countdown song reached the last 2 seconds, Gray took off the ring on her hand. Divorce. The moment the ring was thrown at Alex, he also exploded into a bloody mist. Gray tasted the drop of blood that splattered on her hand. At this moment, fire suddenly flared fiercely. On Mr. Labello's chair, an ancient figure appeared and nodded to Gray. It turned out the deal with the devil was real. Was it Gray's turn to inherit? But Gray didn't care in the slightest. She threw a firebomb, burning down the mansion worth a fortune. Gray walked out of the house. It was morning, and the wedding decorations set up yesterday still showed traces of recent use. Her wedding dress had become a blood-soaked battle suit. She sat on the steps and lit a cigarette. Police sirens blared. The police officer asked Gray what had happened. Gray said emotionlessly, "A bunch of family nonsense." After watching, we can finally say this is a film with no grand ambitions. To call it a horror film or a thrilling film, the demonic rituals in it only scratch the surface. To call it a brain-teasing detective film in a confined space, the spatial structure of the house is already incomprehensible. The female protagonist is even more confused than us. She probably couldn't even find the bathroom in the house. The film also has no intention of discussing any profound topics. Its greatest pride is the twist at the end. Your family exploded. Guess if I have the devil? I really do. Let me show you. But we won't consider this a bad film. The real keyword of this film is not the fighting bride, but the relatives, because it put a lot of effort into portraying and building the characters. Except for a few minor supporting roles, basically every relative has a complete character arc. 1.5 hours crammed in the stories of 9.5 people. The 2 children are counted as half a person. Even when we examine each character individually, each one is strong enough to stand on its own. The father-in-law is the head of the family, embodying the image of a successful man. But his true personality is like a grumpy old man who complains a lot and says unpleasant things. He considers himself superior to most people in the world and completely disregards Gray, a low-born girl, but he also doesn't care. For him, the family's interests come first. Under his control, small fry cannot cause big waves. The person he dislikes most in the house is his own sister. The aunt is a tragic character. 30 years ago, on her wedding night, her husband's uncle drew the hide-and-seek card. The family killed the man she loved most right before her eyes, which completely changed her personality from then on. Because she witnessed and absorbed it from childhood in the family, she did not resist the game that caused her tragedy, but became the most staunch supporter of the rules. She believed that as long as she complied, her heart would no longer ache and no more tragedies would occur. This is also why she was the only one in the family who insisted on adhering to the old rules, unwilling to even change them. She actually didn't care about the younger generation, not even remembering her sister-in-law's name, only calling her the brunette niece. But she cared deeply about Alex, because Alex's situation was like hers back then, and he was also the most hopeful candidate to inherit the position of head of the family. The mother-in-law also came from a low background and was good at expressing emotions. She especially liked Gray, considering her a perfect daughter-in-law. She even thought that Gray had saved Alex and saved this family, but she would not resist the family's game rules. Therefore, we can see a very ironic image. The mother-in-law spoke compassionate words, but held a butcher knife high in her hand. But in reality, she was not entirely kind, because after all, the servants had nothing to do with her, nothing to do with the family. She didn't even blink. The person who annoyed her the most in the house was her brother-in-law. The brother-in-law is a very humorous character. In reality, he benefits from the family's assets, but at heart, he is a coward. He is a slave to his wife, always doubting whether this game is real or fake. In action, he is also reluctant. Whenever no one is looking, he sneaks away. In his heart, he leans towards disbelief, but because everyone in the family firmly believes he has no say, and just goes along with it half-heartedly. Moreover, from the messages he sent to his friends, it is implied that he is gay. Having such a husband, the sister-in-law's life was a misfortune, so she also lived very freely, pursuing the life of a rich young lady addicted to heavy drugs. They also had huge problems in raising their 2 children. The children constantly uttered words like kill, 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 and each time their parents even encouraged them to do so. The children later shot people without any specific thought, just because everyone else did it, and the scary thing is that the sister-in-law even praised them. Daniel's character is a bit more complex. The murder 30 years ago left an indelible trauma in his memory. Since then, he has always felt that his family is evil, but he is powerless and lacks the courage to escape. Finally, he became the person he is now, living aimlessly, giving up on himself. He probably also wanted a beautiful love, but due to long-term influence, the wife he married turned out to be exactly like the people in his family, which made him even more frustrated. The sister-in-law's story is very simple, just an ambitious poor child. After latching on to Daniel, she acted for a very long time. After marrying into a wealthy family, she revealed her true nature. She also knew Daniel didn't love her, but for her, the family's love was the most important. Finally, Alex. Also witnessing the murder, Alex, though unspoken, was certainly greatly affected. He was also the first to have the courage to leave the family. Although he appeared very strong, at heart he was a people pleaser. He didn't want to disappoint Gray, nor did he want to disappoint the family. Therefore, all the choices he faced were to delay things as long as possible until eventually bigger problems erupted. This is a typical good guy personality type who thinks he's kind and soft-hearted but actually can't take responsibility for anyone and hurts others more deeply. And finally, our protagonist, Gray. Compared to many other relatives, Gray's character arc is actually the weakest. She is an orphan who grew up in foster families. Through all sorts of hardships, she grew into a lovely girl. She believes in love, longs for a family, has great hopes for the future, and can giggle like a pig at any time. However, in the end, she only realized the true nature of the good guy after a terrifying night of adventure at the gates of hell. To say that her thoughts have changed is not clearly expressed. The value of a film lies in its reputation, and the value of a film review lies in its feelings. Today's story ends here. Thank you all for watching. What do you think of this film? Please comment below.